Well, welcome to Let's Go Live. I'm Gigi Meyer, and I have with me diversity author E.B. Slayer. Welcome, E.B.
Thank you, Gigi, for having me. Hi, Coco. Let's see.
I'm delighted. I feel like me and you, it's just like having a conversation with my bestie.
Yeah.
We hang out most every Saturday doing writing
Oh my
sprints.
gosh. When
We
I'm
like are
barely
in
awake.
each other's DMs. You name
Yeah.
it. We're like in it.
Hi, Marcia. I'm seeing people I recognize pop on. I'm glad they're joining. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm nervous. Like, this is the first time I'm actually talking about evolution. So yeah.
All right, on my series. Well, I am honored because one, the covers are great, so we'll get into that. And then Revelation is coming up for release on November 17th.
Yes, right around the corner. So
okay, so I this is going to be such a fun hour because me and you always have a fun time when we hang out. And I'm so excited. And so I wanted to ask you, what does diversity author mean? Because I don't see it that much on IG. When I use the hashtag, it had like less than 1,000 posts. So I thought, ooh, this is good. So I want to be educated on what that means.
Well, with diversity, I'm including people who are not normally considered main characters in novels that we read. So whether it's a person of color, someone with a disability, someone who is, there's more LGBTQ people who are authors now, so we see more of that representation. But we don't really see a lot of Black female lead romance novels in mainstream. I mean, there's a lot of indie authors out there. There's a lot of urban fiction, yes, but usually the urban fiction is in big cities, right?
Right, always. Urban fantasy too.
Right. So I've traveled, I've lived overseas, and I don't see a lot of stories about like starring Black women who are traveling and seeing the world. And so that's kind of what I wanted to do. It's like, we travel too. We go places, we have passports and stuff. We're having fun out there too. And so that's kind of what I want to put out there, is that Black women are desired by multiple types of men or people. So
oh my gosh, without a doubt. See, this is so surprising to me because I'm in Houston, humongous city. Everybody is represented. And so when I hear this, I find it so shocking because I guess, you're in your own little bubble and you don't recognize that.
Right.
But why do you think that is? Why are Black women so underrepresented?
I think when it comes to romance, especially billionaire romances, which is kind of what evolution is, the default just happens to be a white woman. And that's kind of what sells. And I think what the industry believes, and when I say industry, I'm talking about publishing companies, like big publishing houses.
The big four.
They believe like that's what people want to read. And a couple of years ago, I was at a writers' conference, and they had a huge discussion about how the big publishing houses are missing this huge market for diverse romances and diverse novels that are inclusive and include people who are not just blonde hair, blue eyes, or brown hair, blue eyes, or red hair, blue eyes. It's like, come on, there's more out there. We've got Asian people and Middle Eastern people. Like, let's just be more diverse. So that's kind of what I'm aiming for, is just to put more Black female leads in the romance area right now.
I love that because that's life. I find it awfully, well, I think the billionaire genre took off with that 50 Shades of Grey book, and that kind of kicked off that subgenre of billionaire, right? And now there's thousands of billionaire romances. But how boring if they're all just like Caucasians. Like, you don't learn anything, you don't read anything, there's no cultural differences, there's no Like,
it's even like for me, usually I don't mind. So it depends on the setting for me. When I get really bothered, like I've not finished books where they take place in big cities like New York and LA or something where there's so much
so
diversity,
much.
especially in New York. Like, I mean, you've got everybody from every corner of the world in New York. And when there's no diversity in the book whatsoever,
Can't do it.
I can't anymore. It's like, come on, this isn't even real. I mean, obviously it's a book, it's not real.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're trying to base it on real life experiences or something, right? Usually contemporary romance is supposed to be happening now. It's supposed to be happening in like our current time period. So when there's no diversity in big cities, I just can't. And then I read a book recently. I got in, I don't know, 4 pages and I just couldn't finish when it was about Detroit, which is where I lived a good chunk of my life in Detroit Metro. And apparently the virus killed all of the Black people, and I just noped out. I was like, wow, they really did that to Detroit? Like, no.
Crazy.
I just could not finish. It's like, I'm not about that life. So,
well, I think people want relatable stories, right? And
right.
You're right. New York is an immigration city. It's built on
Mm-hmm.
those. That has been where immigrants have come over from the West, and then San Francisco and Los Angeles are from the East, and then they're from the West. And so if you've been
Mm-hmm.
in any one of those 3 cities, they're so diverse.
They are. Yep. Lots of people there. So, yeah, so that's what I'm doing right now, just trying to include diversity. I'm not even just talking race. Like, for people who have received the arc or revelation, I haven't talked about it in my posts, but there is disability representation. There's
Mental health.
LGBT, right? Yeah, there's mental health. There's LGBTQIA. So there's representation for a lot of different types of people because we lead different lives.
Mm-hmm.
I'm even trying to slowly write in polyamory as well because hey, things are happening between everybody in that book. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm
Well,
just representing everybody.
okay, that leads me into a question. As an author,
Mm-hmm.
how do you craft that? Because if you're not into polyamory, or if you're not disabled, or if you're not, you know, LGBTQ, any of those, right? If you're not any of the diverse categories, how do you write? And it be authentic, realistic, relatable, and not have like some sensitivity standards that you violate.
Right, like it's a token or something.
Yeah.
Honestly, for me, I talk to those people. Like, I know poly couples. I have so many friends who are LGBT. I have so many, I myself have a disability. So for me, I feel like, especially disability, like we're not written into many stories at all.
Oh
And
no.
so, and if we
Very,
are, it's kind of like a side character that maybe might be mentioned once or twice and that's it. But, so many people are struggling with whether it's a mental disability or a physical disability. And we know these people, they're our families, they're our friends, they're our coworkers. It's not like we are living in this perfect world where everyone around us is absolutely perfect and they don't have any issues. I mean, no, just look
no.
around. Just look around you.
Yeah.
We're gonna have that representation in our lives, and if we don't, then maybe we need to step outside of our shell, our not shells, our little bubble that we live in, and get to know other people. Because I feel like when we get to know people who are not like us, it enriches our lives, and I think that's for the better. And I feel like for me, when I lived in Japan and I was one of the only Black women in my little city, like that really opened my eyes. Like, wow, this is different. Went through, because that was my life for 2 years when I lived in Japan, where it's very homogeneous and no one really looked like me except for one person. And it's kind of terrifying, to be honest, because like I don't have that safety net, you know? Like I don't know those people. So I understand her anxiety.
You know, that is really fascinating, because I was going to ask you, how does that feel? It is like an immersion into another culture.
It is. It is. I mean, growing up in America, I know how to code switch and how to be safe for people who aren't familiar with being around Black people. But I also feel like I had communities here, right? Like you can go to certain neighborhoods. I've got my family, I've got my cousins, I've got friends over there in Japan. I was all by myself. Like there are other foreigners, granted, but they're from like Australia, New Zealand, the UK.
Oh, yeah.
So just being like a Black female there was very different. I got groped a lot. I got a lot of very inappropriate things said to me, like, oh, how many guns do you have? That's just an American thing, the gun thing. What about drugs? You know, like they just assume I do drugs. Like it was just a lot of harmful stereotypes that I had to deal with and talk through. So, but with that being said, I did develop some really good friendships there that I still have. And it's been like 15 years since I've been in Japan. And I still keep in contact with a lot of people, Japanese people. So, you know, it was an experience. I'm glad I went, and I would go again. But yeah, it's definitely different from being here.
Well, and I think too, to your point, when we branch out and have people that are not like us, you're right, it does enrich your life. You learn so much from those that are not like you. And so I have several really close friends. We couldn't be more opposite in everything: beliefs. I'm religious, they're not, you know, you name it. Color, value, religious beliefs, our value system sometimes is different. But that's what's so great. Like you can talk about difficult conversations and just figure out, like, what do you think of it and what's your take on it?
Yes, I agree. It's good to have those difficult conversations.
Well, it makes, I have a friend who is Palestinian from Palestine. He's a first generation American. And so we've had a lot of discussions about what's happening over there and just try to understand like what his parents have gone through. Right. You know, I can't relate. My parents are from Minnesota, you know, and so that's been really interesting to hear his take on it.
Yeah, it's so devastating what they're going through right now. Again, like it's just ridiculous.
That's what I talked about. I said, you know, I think most of the world is on the side of humanity.
Right.
We don't necessarily understand the intricacies of what's going on, but, you know, innocent on either side is horrible.
Yeah, agreed.
I have a question. Did you call it code switching?
Just ignore this.
No, I'm fascinated. Okay, so tell us what that means.
It's just I'll tell you in private what code switching is.
I was talking to my I go to med spa, dermatology spa, and the nurse, lovely lady. She is so like just fun and gregarious and outgoing. But she was talking to us about colorism. And I had never heard that. And she was talking about how there's racism within our own races, and was describing that because she said that she's darker skinned and her two half sisters are lighter skinned, and how they have different experiences, even within the US, about their skin color.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's it happens, unfortunately, because, you know, and this stems back to slavery when there were mixed slaves. And so they would be usually the house slaves because their skin tone was closer to being Caucasian. And so, unfortunately, it still kind of hangs on where people with light skin might be a bit more desirable in like TV shows, for example. There are some beautiful dark skinned women that we see, thankfully, but for the most part, if you look at TV shows with a black cast over, I don't know, the past 10, 15 years, you'll see more lighter skin people. So, but then we've had movies like The Woman King and Wakanda, and those are just amazing because you see all of, you know, the flavors represented. And I just, you know, I love that because it's kind of breaking that norm that we're used to because of mass media. And, you know, like really dark skin wasn't considered beautiful. So, yeah,
No,
we're trying to
there's
get
that
past that.
model, and I never know her name. My daughter could tell you right off the bat, but I think she's on record for having the darkest skin.
There's a couple.
She's
Is she
done
newer
it.
or?
Um,
Yeah. I
yeah,
know
but
there was that AI one. Do you remember that? The AI model? Because I'm not even gonna go there. Like they'd rather pay some white dude who's using an AI instead of an actual like black model, but
I had
it's
not heard
ridiculous.
of that.
Yeah, it's been a controversy for a couple of years when AI started to become popular. So it's getting even more popular.
Oh yeah, AI is. I'm so intrigued about your books and how they have such a diverse cast, and I love it. And I wonder if we're going to see more of that go into the traditionally published realm because people want to be one represented, they want to be seen, they want relatable
Right.
characters. You know, and just to write one race or one type, it's just boring. I cannot believe that, you know, some of the big publishers are still not including more people of color.
Actually, not only do they not include it, they write it out. It's kind of one of the reasons why I decided to do self-publishing because um, I didn't want a publishing house to tone down Sasha's character to make her more relatable to Caucasian people. Like, she's a Black woman. I want Black women to be proud of her as well. So, for example, my sister, she commented on Sasha's hair. She was like, you know, she was thankful that I didn't say kinky because a lot of times people describe black hair as kinky and coarse, and that's not necessarily true. Our hair can take on so many textures, and so I describe her hair as having like tight curls or coils, but I never use kinky because it just doesn't have the right, I don't know, it's kind of taking a negative connotation to our hair. I'm in a group and someone posted an excerpt from, oh my gosh, I just had to block who it was from my memory, but a woman is writing stories about slavery, and she said that the girl's hair was like a dead rodent's, and I was like, how is this?
Oh my
It's
God.
so insulting to describe our hair that way. Like, our hair takes so much time, so much care, and to have it be described as a dead rodent, like, I was very insulted by
Oh,
that.
that's
And
offensive.
it is offensive. And so I also kind of want to have like positive imagery for Black women. Like, you know, this is my crown. Like, my hair is my crown. It's not a dead rodent. Like, come on, you know.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. The stuff that's getting published these days about Black women, it's kind of hurtful. And I know I put Sasha through a lot of shit. Like, I know I do. You know, she's got anxiety. She's got these, like Pietra, she went through that with him. So I know she goes through a lot of stuff, but at the same time, she has people who are supporting her. You know, Rickard, he gets her the therapist, Imani, to help her get through her trauma so she can finally grow and start loving herself. And, you know, that's kind of the point. It's like, we deserve to have mental health. We deserve to get help for our trauma. We shouldn't be forced to just smile through the pain while everybody else is getting help, and we're just supposed to be the pillar of the Black community, taking on every single like pain that we get. Like, it's so much that Black women have to deal with, and we're just supposed to be strong through it all. It's like, no, sometimes we need to be soft too. Sometimes we need to get help too, so that we don't pass that trauma on to our kids, because I do believe in generational trauma. And I feel like my mom, I've been asking her again and again to get help for her trauma, and she won't. And I can see how it affects our relationship. And so I want to put it out there, like, look, get the help that you need. Find the therapist that you need. Don't hold on to this trauma, because it's something that Sasha could have did. She could have held on to it, and she would not have had a good relationship with Ricky if she didn't get it addressed.
Do you think there's stigmas then around it?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of stigma around therapy and getting like mental health even. Yeah, there's a lot of stigma around it.
Where does that come from? I quite don't understand.
I think it's a lot of it does, and I don't want to keep going back to this, but I do feel like some of it does stem back from slavery, when we were just considered property and not considered human. And so,
and to just take whatever treatment.
Right. And so and there still is also, like, even just talking about men, okay, men in general, the way a lot of men are raised, it's kind of through violence. So they're taught to roughhouse. They're given toys that are based off of violence when they're boys. They don't really understand soft touch until they're adults and start dating.
Yeah.
That's when they experience the first, like, real soft touch besides their mother. And so even if we look at men, it's like, well, just get over it. Just, you know, pick yourself up by your bootstraps, suck it up, whatever, move on. Some people just can't do that, though. And whether it's a biological issue, because yes, people do have biological issues that affect their mental health. And so whether it's a biological issue or whether it's just they aren't mentally strong enough. I mean, unfortunately, we have so much stress that's not being addressed because we either don't have the money, the time, or the health care for it. And it's overloading our brains, honestly. So.
No, I think that's very true, because like you, right, we're in the middle. We're raising this new generation where we're trying to have them, and you have a daughter, I have a daughter, and a son. And so it's getting them to talk about their emotions freely, openly, creating a safe space where they can do it, and they're not going to be judged, they're not going to be punished, we're not going to have all that old language.
Right.
However, it's also being around our parents that are from that old generation where you don't talk about your feelings and you don't talk about sex, and everything is like a big hush hush secret, and you just get through life.
Right.
So I feel like we're kind of like the cusp between the old, you know, old way of doing things that doesn't work, and like the new with the younger, and having to really get into their mental health to help protect them, to get them the resources they need.
Right. Yes, it's a push that needs to happen. I've been reading reviews, but then not exactly reading reviews because I was busy. So, but I would take a glance like once a week, and I saw a lot of people say like her anxiety's too much. Why won't she just get over it? And it's like, well, if you think about it, when Sasha and Ricky when she walks away from him, when she sees his penthouse, she's like, no, I can't do this. She was only out of her domestic violence situation for 1 month.
That's nothing.
That is nothing. Like, I know women who have been out of their situation for several years and they still can't bring themselves to date someone because they're just terrified.
The trauma. No, because you don't know, like, even if you go through therapy and you think you've overcome it, you have no idea what's going to be a trigger until it happens. And then you're like, oh my gosh, this, even though it may not be the same circumstances, it feels the same.
Exactly. Yep. So I feel like what I was noticing is I'm seeing a lot of posts about, hey, you know, mental health this, mental health that, and then seeing reviews saying, no, she's doing too much. Like, her anxiety is too much. She needs to just get over it. Or for a Black woman, that's not good. It's like, really? Like, I feel like Black women deserve to get help for their mental health if they need it. And that's what she's doing. So I kind of feel sad that there's still this stigma around, you know, Black women can't experience these things, because we do. We have anxiety too. We have mental health issues too.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we're human.
People experiencing this crazy world.
Right? Like,
why would you be different?
If dogs and cats can get anxiety and need to get medication for their anxiety, why can't a Black woman? I mean, let's just be for real, okay? So I think
anxiety is fascinating because, you know, it can happen at any time. I have 2 members of my family that are very, very close to me. One was triggered by menopause and had never had anxiety at all. And all of a sudden, like, menopause is just, it's massive. It's almost crippling. And then when she went to the doctor, she was talking to the doctor and he said, I have a man who's 62 years old and can't go on the high freeways anymore. Like in Texas, we have all these, they call them flyovers, they're really high. And so he gets anxiety. But I find anxiety fascinating because we always associate anxiety with like trauma, right? So if there's like child abuse, domestic abuse, sexual violence, we understand that. But anxiety can happen to anyone at any time.
It can, right?
Even if your life is going great or it appears normal, or, you know, your trauma or your problems are minimal. And so to me, I feel like there's no such thing as too much of this or not enough of that, because it's 1,000% real to the person experiencing, you know, the panic attacks and the shaky breath and the racing heart and the sweats. How do you say, oh, that's too much?
But that's how we're raised, to just get over it. Like, you're fine. Take a deep breath, count to 10, whatever, but we got places to be. We got shit to do.
That does not
over
work.
It. Yeah.
Just meditate through it. It'll go away. You're like, what?
Pretty much.
Yeah. And I feel like mental health is so tricky to solve because there's not like a test, you know, like you can go in and let's say you get a stress test and it tells you like if you have a blockage in your heart, or it tells you any kind of defects, right? Those are a lot easier to have a benchmark, and we can pinpoint, hey, right here, that's the problem. But when it comes to any mental health, whether it be, you know, anxiety or depression, that is, or, you know, autism, I mean, I feel like all of it is on this spectrum, and it's really difficult to measure from one person to the next, right? Because there's no real test for it. I mean, sure, you go to the doctor and they can ask, you know, like, I know when my spouse was tested for ADD and ADHD, you know, they have a questionnaire you fill out. But I feel like that's really not like scientifically like as concrete as like an MRI or a CAT scan, you know?
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. The brain is still very much unmapped. So, but they're learning more, and I feel like the society as a whole is trying to address it. They just don't know how. We don't know how yet. We're trying to, but it's one of those, hey, this is a problem where we should take care of this, but how do we do it? So
yeah, and breaking down those old stigmas like you're doing with your books.
mm-hmm.
You know, when you put in mental health and how she's dealing with it firsthand, and then your readers can see like, oh my gosh, I either relate or I don't understand, but I'm learning.
Mm-hmm. I do see it's like one thing or the other. Either people who have experienced it, they understand exactly where she's coming from.
Yeah.
And people who haven't, they're like, this is too much for me. Like, why is she like this? And so I get it both ways. And for the people who have been through it, I just want to say you can heal from it and you can have a better future. And people who have not been through it, I say, I'm so glad you have not experienced this because it's awful. And honestly, no one should be experiencing it. So, you know, I don't get upset from what they say. I just say, okay, I'm glad you haven't been through this. Really, that's how I feel about it.
How does that shape your writing then? Because you had Evolution, and then now you have Revelation coming out. So did this criticism or people that said it's too much, did it shape your writing from book to book?
No. Because I already had it done. So I wrote the trilogy back in 2009 in like 5 weeks.
What?
So yeah.
All 3 books?
Yeah, all 3 books.
Oh my God.
So for me, it's like, well, I already had it done. And Sasha grows. So a lot of people expect her to stay the same. No. But since Rickard got help for her and she's working on herself, and it's funny because I sent the arcs out last night and someone messaged me 5 minutes before I got on with you. She's like, oh my gosh, I just finished. I love Sasha's growth, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I just sent this like 3 hours ago. Not even 24 hours. I sent them last night after 10 p.m. So, but yeah, so I'm glad that they're seeing Sasha's growth through the story, because that's the point, is that yes, we can get better. We can heal from the trauma. We can move on. We can get stronger. And so that's kind of the point of this series, is that she does get better and she does get stronger, but she also has a lot of shit she's dealing with. And so, yeah, I do some shit. Like, it's bad.
Well, it's a message of hope, right? Because sometimes we take a lot of hits in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't get a break. Even though you like may pray for a break, you beg for a break, you hope for a break. Sometimes you don't. It's just like one hit after another.
Right. No, that's right. We don't always get breaks, so.
Okay, I am fascinated. Can we go back when you said you wrote the whole series in 2009?
2019. Sorry.
2019.
Yeah.
Okay. So how did it come to be published recently?
I finally just pulled the trigger. So I wrote this series in 2019. It's honestly based off of a dream that I had. So I had a dream about this guy on a motorcycle, and we went out to dinner. And he's like, I'm going to go somewhere. And he gave me his credit card to pay for dinner. And the waitress looked at the credit card and she's like, this is not you. I'm not taking this.
Yeah.
And so I was like stressed out for the entire dream. So I'm like, oh my gosh, how they won't pay for this. They're going to call the cops. Where is he? I don't even know where he is. And then he comes in, he's like yelling at them. And then he takes me outside and there's a motorcycle there. And we get on the motorcycle and I wake up. And so I'm telling my friend about this dream. I'm like, how would it, like, what would happen if there was a woman in like a random European country who was with this guy on a motorcycle? Like, it was just for fun, right?
Yeah.
So I ended up writing it as a joke, and I was going to end it with just one book. It was just going to be one story. And my friend, she was logging into Google Docs every night to read what I wrote during the day. And towards the end of the first book, she said, you know what? They deserve more.
Ooh.
And I was like, what? because I was done. Like, I was about to finish. I told her in messages, like, okay, I'm almost done with the story. She said, no, they deserve more than this. Like, they're really good characters. I love how they're getting together. I love how he treats her. They need more.
What a
and I was like,
great friend.
Yeah. But at the same time, I was like, damn it, really? So, so I was like, okay, what am I going to do now?
You're like,
I
got no more. This is the end, period. I typed the words, the end.
Yeah, so I said, okay, she wants more, so I'll write more. And then, like, 3.5 weeks later, I finished. And I wrote it, like, when she said she wanted more, I said, okay, fine. Like, I took it as a challenge, so I wrote more. And I was writing, like, 15 to 20,000 words a day. And so during that time, it was winter. So I told you I have a disability. I have a really bad back. So in the winter, I can barely move. So I was on my bed every day. I wrote it on my phone with my thumbs like this.
Oh my gosh.
20,000 words a day on my phone until I finished it in like December.
Bless your heart.
I bawled like a baby. When I tell you the end, some people are gonna hate my fucking guts. I'm sorry, okay? I'm telling you now, when you read the third book, I am so sorry, because I know some people are gonna be angry with me.
They're gonna come for you.
Yeah. They're gonna have words.
Oh, I am so blown away. I mean, one, I can't imagine typing that many words, period, in a day. I think my eyeballs would be bleeding.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't care anymore. It'd be a sloppy mess. But
I didn't do anything. I barely ate. Like, my husband was bringing me food and water, and I just would, like, I had to put a pillow under my legs, and I would just lay there in bed all day, just do until I finished.
Wow. Okay, so does your back get better? Do you have some sort of relief? Because that's gotta be terrible.
It's chronic, so I just kind of deal with it. So it's not better. Some days are better than others. Some days are worse than others. So it's just chronic pain at this point. And since it's like an invisible, disability, it's, it sucks. But I'm 41, I think, right now. I don't know. I'm 41 or something. I'm actually still 25, but no, I'm like 41, and I had a cane by the time I was 37. I had to start walking with a cane because of it.
Wow, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
You were such a trooper. I had no idea, because you are always so cheerful, so positive, so patient, and to deal with chronic pain.
Oh yeah, it's tough. So,
you're like,
but it is what it is. I'm not letting it, at least because I haven't been working as much. I'm able to write now, so I'm taking the positives with it. So
that's amazing. So you wrote book 2 on your back, on your phone, with your thumbs.
Yeah.
You released
and 3, book 1, basically the entire trilogy. So it was probably like 3. Well, book 3 is long, but it was probably like 300,000 words.
Girl, you let nothing stop you. Yeah. If anyone can take anything from this interview, it's just like, do not let nothing stand in your way.
Right. Yeah.
Because you're like flat on back. Wow. That's so inspirational.
Thanks.
Okay, so you finished book 2. You send it over to her as your update through Google Docs. What does she say?
Well, this was a couple of years ago. I mean, my friend, are you talking about the ARC reader, or are you talking about a couple of years ago when I was writing?
No, a couple of years ago, because then we'll fast forward into 2023 and see if the book is still the same.
It is not the same. I have changed. So what I changed, though, so the therapist is new. So after I wrote the series, when I originally wrote it, Imani Miller was not in the series. Okay. He kept telling her and offering, hey, I want to get you a therapist.
Yeah.
But because so much was happening, it kept getting delayed. And so after I wrote the series, I thought, you know what, I need to put this in there because it's important. And I feel like her getting help and growing because she wants to grow, that's important. And it shouldn't be something that's put off until book 3 or just put off and never happens. And so the biggest change is me writing in Imani Miller from Evolution and then adding her throughout the series.
Well, it's important to show the therapy happening rather than it being, like off page, right? And then all of a sudden she comes back and she's like, I'm healed, or you know what I mean? Yeah.
Right, because therapy itself can be traumatizing. Like the first one that she went to, she felt like it wasn't helping. She said, I feel like I'm a specimen. And that's another point I wanted to make, is that not all therapists can help us. Like sometimes we have to go through several until we can find one that fits our needs.
Well, it's a relationship, right? So you have to make sure that you have someone that fits you and you fit them, because it is a really critical and private, intimate relationship.
It is. Yep.
And you have to be able to trust them before you unpack everything that's going on in your life. Yeah. Okay, so book 3, you wrote the whole trilogy on your back, on your phone, and then you added the therapist. So what made you decide, because there's lots of people that are probably listening to this that their goal is like, I want to write a book. It's on everyone's bucket list, right? But between writing it for yourself and then being brave enough to be like, I'm going to start this author journey, 2 different things.
Yes.
So what made you decide, I'm going to finish this and I'm actually going to publish it and release it to the world?
So I've always wanted to publish, but I've always been too chicken shit. It's like,
relatable. Everybody gets.
I mean, it is kind of scary though, because yes, it's a story, but at the same time, like, this is a piece of myself, like some of Sasha's experiences are my experiences. So me living overseas, I did study ballroom dancing when I lived in Japan. Like, that's a little bit of me in there. So just putting a piece of myself out there for the world to look at and leave reviews on and talk about, it's kind of terrifying. A friend of mine, Roger, he had suggested that I post on Wattpad because I told him that I wrote this story and I was kind of terrified, and he was like, oh, put it on Wattpad. I'd never heard of Wattpad before then. So I thought, okay, I guess I'll put it up there. So I was putting up like a chapter every couple of days, and it blew up. I was #1. So Evolution was not called Evolution. It was actually called The Bearded Lumberjack. So The Bearded Lumberjack was on Wattpad and it blew up. It was #1 within a week.
Whoa.
And then it stayed #1 for about 3 weeks until I took it down. And so I put the rest up there too, and they were like battling with each other. Like, I've got the screenshots of them being like 1, 2, and 4, or 1, 2, and 3. And I was like, wow. Okay, so I took it down because I was like, I don't want someone to steal anything.
Right.
So I took it down, and then I got a Patreon because another friend suggested I do that, because writing, unfortunately, you put so much into it, but we don't really get paid much. And it's a lot of work.
It's a lot.
And so, yeah, someone suggested I do Patreon, and that kind of helped to keep me motivated because people were paying me to like write and edit. And then I started editing for Gary Michael. He writes romance. And he was telling me, he kept asking, like, why aren't you published yet? I said, I've just taken my time. It's not right yet. And he said, finally, he said, okay, we're going to get you published. And he sat with me in March of this year, I think March or April. And he asked if the story was done. then said, okay, you've got 2 months to publish. And that's what I did. I published in 2 months, and he just walked me through self-publishing. So I've had a lot of support, which I'm thankful for.
He's a huge accountability partner.
Yeah, that was huge, actually. So, but, you know, readers, patrons, my husband, you know, he's always been supportive too. So I'm thankful, because it's scary to put yourself out there like this.
Mm-hmm.
And especially because I don't want it to just be, I don't know, like what she's going through. Unfortunately, a lot of women have gone through with the domestic violence and with trying to love again. And so I don't want to take that lightly.
Of course.
But at the same time, it is kind of a romance story that kind of becomes a romance suspense, and things change. But yeah, I wanted to do Sasha and Ricky justice, so I took my time with it.
Well, and I think too, when you're on the path, people are revealed to you, right? Mm-hmm. Like I said, I'm spiritual, so I always say, like, God will put the right resources in at the right time. Mm-hmm. But I do, you know, think that that's the case with you, because you've had this encouragement, right? It started with your friend. And then Wattpad is phenomenal. There are so many good authors that start there and turn into be published authors. So then you have the support there, then you have the support from your author friend. I mean, it's unlimited.
Yes, it's been nice. It definitely helped encourage me and give me the motivation to keep going, as opposed to shelving it. Because I have stories that are like 10, 15, 20 years old that I wrote when I was in college, and that I have not even thought about publishing. It's just, I write for myself usually.
I'm hearing is you have like a vault of work.
I guess. But the thing is, they're all over the place too. And I mean all over the place as in genre. Like, one is a fantasy, one is kind of a sci-fi with AI and stuff. So I don't just write one particular genre. And I think that scared me too, because I was like, well, I've got all these stories, but they're in different genres. I don't want to be pigeonholed into a genre. I want to be able to write what I want to write. And so that's another reason why I hesitated for so long, because I was like, well, what is it that I write? Like, I don't know. I can't just pick one.
I think there's a lot of authors that struggle with, what is my genre? Am I like women's fiction? Am I romance? And then you get into the subgenres, right? And it's true. You know, Stephen King writes in multiple genres. James Patterson. I think someone said Nora Roberts does.
She does. She does J.D. Robbs too, which I love that series.
But I know, like, Stephen King, he doesn't use a pen name. You know, he just has his regular name for all his different genres. Some do use another pen name. James Patterson, he doesn't. He has just his one pen name under all these genres. So I feel when you're indie, you can literally do whatever you want.
Yeah, I think I might have to stay.
Exactly. Okay, so Revelation comes out in November.
Yes.
And you're already getting some good feedbacks from your ARCs.
Yes. I've gotten some feedback that's good. Some, hey, you missed this, because, okay, I'll be honest, I'm kind of doing it all myself. So the editing I kind of did myself. I do have a proofreader, but I think he has like weird hours, so he's been missing a couple of things too. So I have to like read through it again. But yeah, it's a labor of love, and I'm way too involved. But I don't have a team.
But EB, I'll give you some assurances. I have a dev editor. I have a copy line editor. I have a proofreader. I have a street team and an art team. We all miss it. And so sometimes you have all these eyes and you're like, oh my goodness, how is there still a freaking typo?
Right, it happens.
It does. I read a book, and I can't, you know, I'm terrible with names. It's literally sitting on my coffee table over here, but Hillary Clinton wrote it with another really well-known author. And I was literally reading along, and she had a typo. I'm like, okay, if Hillary Clinton's book can have a typo, then mine can have a typo.
Yeah. I will embrace the typos.
Well, I mean, I love love when anyone finds it and they send it to me, because I instantly go to my EPUB, make the change, re-upload it. And that's what I do love, is that, you know, we have that control where we can do it. You're not having to go through a publisher and it take, you know, weeks to make that change.
That is nice. And I'm grateful for, you know, anything people send me, even like what could be construed as negative feedback. Like, I get it. Just give it all to me, because it'll help me grow as an author.
Exactly. You know, some of it could be craft, that you become better at your craft. Sometimes we, as authors, we have a whole story in our head. And when you are working alone and bootstrapping it, like you're saying, sometimes you don't see like the plot holes or inconsistency, or, you know, just minor things. Yeah. So I think it's wonderful when we get feedback from people that are willing to like take time, read your story, and then reach out to you, be like, hey, here's what I found.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Yeah. I love it too. So y'all slide into EB's DMs.
They're in there, trust me.
So what is the plan for book 3? Do you have a title? Do you want to tell us the title? And that's fine if you don't. And then when do you think you'll launch it?
So book 3 title is Retribution.
Ooh.
And
that could go a lot of different ways.
Yeah. It's supposed to be it's supposed to release in March of 2024. Okay. So next year, March.
Yep.
Yeah. It's like what, 6-ish months away, 6.5-ish months. I will say that out of all the 3 books, Retribution needs the most work.
Okay, so where are you at in that process? Is it written? It's still drafting?
Yeah, I mean, it's written. It's just that I need to, how do I want to say this? I want to make it more of a suspense thriller.
Okay.
So hashtag Beauty and the Bell, like each book changes her story. So it starts as a contemporary romance. Okay. And then book 2, Revelation, becomes a like romance suspense, I guess. And then in book 3, the romance is out the fucking window. Like, she doesn't have time for that. And so it's kind of a suspense thriller almost in book 3.
Oh, interesting.
So, right. So I don't really consider myself a suspense thriller author, though. So that's why it needs the most work.
What made you decide to do that, though? Is it the plot, the character, that kind of just this natural retelling of the story was like that?
Yeah, it's character driven where it did that. Yeah, and I did some stuff in Revelation that I can't go back. So it's like, well, I did this and I gotta just push forward with it, because this is what's gonna happen.
Is it illegal? Is it immoral?
It's illegal stuff that happens.
All right.
Yeah.
We like morally gray, or all the way gray.
Yeah. I mean,
morally.
Because the more she gets involved with Rickard, the more dangerous her life becomes. So, yeah, just stuff changes. I don't want to give things away, because I want people to be able to read it and discover from them for themselves. Like, oh, wow.
Will this be her last book? Is this the end of the story?
The Retribution, the 3rd one, yes. Like, it's the end. So Retribution, the 3rd book, is the end. When you read it, it's like, okay, everything is kind of folded up nicely, and we get a final end to it. So there's there's nothing else. Even though I've had people ask, they're like, well, what about this character? It's like, no.
You're gonna just be frozen in time on those pages.
Yeah. I have written like histories, so stuff about Ricky, stuff about his parents. I did write about Tobias and Mariabel, and I wrote about Noah, her Swiss Guard, and what happened to him, because I never really explained his story completely. And so I did write about his story, like a prequel type thing of what happened with him.
Okay, so where will people find that?
That is Patreon only content.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Exclusive content.
Yes.
Okay, so the story does continue though on your Patreon.
Well, it's like back
Pieces
history.
of.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is next? You wrote this one, you've been editing it, you're going to be working on Retribution. Because I imagine Retribution, if you're going to try and do rewrites, and then you have to obviously re-edit a zillion times, that kind of keeps you busy through March.
Yeah, that's why I tried to give myself enough time to fix it. Like, I've already been thinking about it, which is really difficult because I don't want to start writing on it yet, or fixing scenes, adding scenes. So I've been trying to use self-control to just focus on Revelation right now, because that needs my attention, and I want to make sure that the launch goes well for that. And then I can, you know, deep dive into Retribution.
What does your launch look like for a Revelation?
I have no idea. Look, I'm making this up every day.
You're like, I don't know, we'll see.
I mean, basically, I've got arcs out, thankfully. And so the arcs are sent. Right now, I'm just working on like graphics and rereading it again. Not much is going to change in what I sent to the arcs. So like, I'm hoping like it's done. So really just fixing the cover and stuff like that, the blurbs, the website. I've got a playlist already up for the music if anyone wants to listen to that, but just...
Okay, is it any of that you're singing?
Oh, it's not on Spotify, but I didn't really sing, I just talked. I'm talking about the song, the Revelation song. Oh my gosh. What was I thinking?
I love that. Okay, so is that on the playlist? Or no, you said it's not on Spotify.
Yeah, he didn't upload it on Spotify. Since he, you know, created the song, I told him to upload it where he felt comfortable. It's on my website, though.
Oh,
so it is on the website.
People can find it there.
Yep, evslayer.com. It's right there on the main page.
I know, because I love that. But I also like your reels, too. Your launch, I mean, so far with the cover reveal and the countdown, that was good.
Oh, I'm trying. I wish I could do, like, cinematic videos, because I've got this vision for Retribution that's been in my head that won't leave, and I don't know how to do it because I have no cinematic anything, like no skill in making videos, and it's something I cannot do because I can't go blow up some fucking cars. So I'm just kind of like...
But could AI do it for you?
I don't know. I tried the other day, and I tried to do like a car crash with this one AI chat thing, and it literally had a truck driving on a snow-covered road and then a snowball going across the screen, and that was the crash. And I just said, I'm too tired for this, so I noped out.
Oh man, well, I am not on Midjourney now, but when I was on it and playing around with it, it is fun, but it's such a time suck. Like, you could be on there like 2 hours, and you're like, oh my gosh, I lost 2 hours, and I really don't have anything to show for it, but I had fun playing around with it.
Yeah, I don't have that time right now, so I'll have to figure it out. Retribution is still pretty far out, though, so I'm not too worried about it. It's just, it's in my head. Like, I can't let go of it yet, so we'll see. Okay,
so when Sasha's done, then what?
Then I have LaTanya. Then I have Vicky.
Okay, are they connected? Are they interconnected series?
No.
Okay.
So LaTanya is a vet who goes to Australia and works at a koala sanctuary in Brisbane. So her series is an age gap. No, it's not even series. It's just a standalone. It's an age gap. But the book was so long, I might have to split it up because it's like 130,000, and I'm like, that's 2 books. So she basically falls in love with somebody while she's there, and then Vicky's story is kind of a suspense where she has to go into hiding and change her identity, and so it's almost like Stockholm syndrome where she kind of falls for the guy who's helping her.
Oh, okay. But that is a super common trope. Like, people love that. I mean, we would obviously not want that in the real world, but people love it in romance.
Yeah, they do. But it's, yeah, the thing is, she doesn't stay with him. She ends up with his brother. And so it just turns, it's weird. Okay, I can't.
And another popular trope in romance is the brother.
Yeah.
You're like,
brother,
I'm gonna put them all.
best friend, something like that. Yeah. So I have other books that are done. So after I finished the trilogy in 2019, I kept writing, and I wrote 3 other books. So
oh my god,
I still have
so
other
like you're
stuff.
working on your backlist.
Yeah, pretty much, which is good. I mean, I've got more books to write, and it's funny because before I even started writing them, I had a dream about going to a library and seeing a bookcase and just seeing I knew it was my books. I couldn't see the title, but I was staring at them like, this is mine. And so I know, like, it's time. Like, I need to just stop holding back, just start publishing, just put them out there, because I've seen it. I've seen them on a bookcase. I've seen it even as like the series, like they are grouped together. Like, this was a series, this was 1, this was 2. So yeah, it's time.
Gosh, girl, like the universe is just like sending you all these signs, and you're
Yes.
like, I'm not sure. Send me another one.
Yeah.
That is
Pretty
huge.
much.
You know how many authors would love to have a vision, or be able to manifest their bookstore shelf? You know how many would love that?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So hopefully I just got to keep going, and I'm ready. I'm ready to keep going.
Yeah, you do have to keep going, ma'am.
Thank you for your support too, Gigi. Every Saturday you're like, so what are you writing today? What are you doing?
What are you doing? Girl, now that I know about this, I'm going to be like all over you. Yep.
Thanks. I need it. I need the pokes.
I'll be your Houston accountability partner.
Yeah. I am all for that.
So let me ask you this then. That puts you out. So you have a standalone, which will be Tanya, and then you said Vicky is almost 2, or Latanya's almost 2
books. So Vicky is 2
25.
Books. Yeah, she's 1 for each brother. So
okay. But that puts you into 2025 publishing, really.
Yeah, that's true. If I keep going, which, I mean, their books don't need as much work as Retribution. And the reason why, like, I asked people, so I put them all on Wattpad. So people have read the beta version, like the unedited version of these is what I put on Wattpad. And then I asked my followers on Wattpad, what should I publish first?
Yeah.
And everyone said Bearded Lumberjack. Like, that one just stuck with everybody. And even after I took them down, like, it's been, let's see, it was in 2020, so it's been like 3 years since I took them off of Wattpad. People are still sliding in my DMs and messaging me like, hey, have you published that one yet? Like, when do we get more of that? Like, what about this one? What about Ricky? Are you gonna put that up yet? Is it available? It's like, okay, I just need to do this.
That is awesome.
It's been years and they keep asking about them. So
my gosh, what a compliment.
It is. It is a compliment. And so I'm worried though, because I feel like because the hashtag Beauty and the Belle series does so much, the others are a lot simpler. They're more laid back. Like, I feel the one with La Tanya in Australia, like that's more of a comedy to me. It's like a rom-com, you know, so it's not as serious as Sasha and Ricky's story. You know, she's just there having fun with the fireys and some hot guys. Like, fireys are firemen. So, you know, she's just having fun with the firemen, and then she sees the silver fox, like, god damn, you know? So, like, that's kind of, it's really relaxed and just for fun. And so maybe I could have it as a palate cleanser before there's the brother, but I just don't want, I'm afraid that everyone's going to expect a Sasha and Ricky type story every single time, and that's just not going to happen. You know, I feel like that's an epic love story. These are just for fun love stories.
Well, and I know that's a common worry with authors, right? Do like, I have to stay in the same subgenre.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, these readers, they read romance across all genres. Then they go into fantasy romance, they go into historical fiction, historical women's fiction.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like your reader will just enjoy reading you. And it doesn't matter what the genre is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. I need to keep that in mind and stop being so like self-critical about it. And just let the stories, because I'm character driven. I just kind of let the characters dictate what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. And you're basically like dictating along, like a court reporter.
Yeah, pretty much.
But what a beautiful gift that is, right? Because not everybody can do it.
Mm-hmm. Writing
Evie,
is hard.
You have so much going for you. Oh, I can hug you.
Yes, one day we will.
Okay, so that takes you into 2025. And then what do you have planned for your Patreon? And how did that get started, if you don't mind me asking?
So Patreon, like I said, a friend, it's actually a D&D friend, had suggested that I start a Patreon. I was terrified too, because I thought no one's gonna pay for me to write, but I do have some patrons who have been there since I started. Nice. And I have, so Patreon has merch that they can send on your behalf, and so I just like upload designs and then they'll send it to people. So awesome. There's a shirt, there's a tote bag, there's some stickers for patrons. For the release of this book, for Evolution, I actually put together a Patreon box because they had been following me for so many years and supporting me. I was like, look, these people deserve something really nice. So I did a bunch of handmade stuff. Like, there is a thermos or a tumbler, some stickers. I did, oh my gosh, keychains. Oh, I also have like Ode to Ricky, or Ode to Lumberjack. It's how Ricky smells as an air freshener. So there's a bunch of little stuff in there, and in a notebook, and like thanking them for supporting me. And that was like a Patreon only box. I do have one left that will be a giveaway that I'm going to do in celebration also for Revelation. So I'm just going to do like a big giveaway. But I did make one extra set of everything. Mm-hmm. So someone will get a Patreon box who is not a patron. But yeah,
I'll share it when you post it.
Yeah, thank you. So I just try to give them like the back histories. They had asked for that. So they got the back histories. I post like once or twice a month because I have been busy. But I usually just tell them like what I'm doing. Like, okay, I'm editing this, or I tell them like where their money is going, mm-hmm. so that they know how they're helping me to be a writer. Because of like my back pain, I've had to purchase certain things. Like, for example, there's actually a patron sent this to me. They sent a desk that I can use in my bed when I lay down, and it just kind of swivels so I can be reclined and still be able to work on my laptop.
Wow, that is so nice.
It is really nice, yeah. And then there's like headphones, for example. I need nice headphones because since I'm home with my kid and husband, I don't have like a separate writing space. So my writing space is my headphones, basically. Once I have those on, don't talk to me. It's like, just let me focus on what I'm doing. And so I had to purchase some nice headphones. Those are expensive, and just, everyday bills, it adds up, internet, computer. So I just let them know, like, hey, this is what you helped me with this year. And yeah, so it's been, I probably don't do enough, but yeah.
See, how do you market that? Because that's always challenging.
When I first started, I marketed on my Facebook, like my personal Facebook. I just said, hey, this is what I'm doing right now, and I want to publish, and if you could support me. And I tell them, like, any amount, even if it's $1, is better than, they don't have to contribute a lot. Like $1 is enough.
Yeah.
So, and some people, like, that's, that was what they were willing to pay. Some people more. And but yeah, pretty much just on Facebook. Now I honestly don't talk about it, so I probably should, because I'm doing everything myself, like designing the covers, the editing, the advertising, posting on social media. It's a lot of work.
Oh my gosh, it is. When you're an indie author, you wear about 20 hats. Yeah.
And it's exhausting.
Oh, it is, especially when you are dealing with the chronic pain, and you said, the disability. I mean, it is. And you're still so wonderful.
Thank you. You're so sweet.
So what do you think is the hardest part about writing, and what is the easiest part about your author journey?
The easiest part is definitely just the writing. I have always been writing. Like, even when I was in grade school, I have my notebook. Hi, Chrissy. I have a notebook from when I was like 11 that is a story that I wrote about adult me. So, no idea what was supposed to happen with adult me, but I had a story. And so, I've always been writing. It's always been really easy for me to write. In high school, I had written a story that I was passing out around school, and I would like print out the chapters and pass them out. And then because people were making like copies of them, I had to make them sign that they read it and stuff, and then I would collect the originals. Oh my gosh, it was ridiculous. Like, I wasn't handing out
hustle
drugs.
Spirit.
Yeah, I wasn't handing out drugs. I was handing out stories. Okay, and the only reason why I stopped writing is because my mom and dad found out, and they got so angry they broke the disc. So it was like a floppy disc. Right. So it was the zip one. So it was the hard one, not the soft one. It was the hard one. So they found out that I was writing. They're like, what about your grades? So granted, I still had decent grades. Okay. I was like an A-B student. But no, my mom needed an A student. So since I was getting B's and I was writing, she was upset. My dad took the disc and broke it in half, and I lost everything. And I had like 5 or 6 stories on there. I lost my shit. Like, I was angry for weeks. And so because of that, I didn't write for a long time. And I didn't start again. Yeah. I mean, it was just kind of like soul wrenching, It's like, that was my life. That's my soul that I put into there, and they just broke it and it was gone. So writing has always been something that I can do. Like, if you talk about NaNoWriMo, I've done it almost every year since 2012. So that's a lot of stuff that I've written over the years.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I just like writing. The hardest part about being an author is just, especially an indie author, the hardest part is everything else. having to advertise, having to edit, having to find people you trust to edit. Because you don't want someone to rewrite your voice either.
Right. And some will.
Yeah. So just finding someone you trust to edit, finding that support system. But thankfully, I've been blessed to have a lot of people support me on this journey. But I know for some people, they have not found that yet. And so it's taking a little bit longer than they had hoped for. But just keep going, keep putting yourself out there, and it gets easier.
I agree with you. I always tell people, I'm like, just DM me if you have any questions, because we all know who the good and the bad are. You have some vendors that are very predatory with new authors, and then you have some that are really good.
I ignore all of those, hey, pay me to review your book. It's like, I don't have money for that.
You can't. Amazon will kick you off if you have paid reviews. And so new authors don't know that. Too. Yeah. So what you don't know can hurt you. Lovely.
Marketing is your favorite part. Listen, you can do all of mine. It is so time consuming. And you put in all that effort, and then it doesn't get like the play, or it doesn't get the responses, and you're like, wah, wah, wah. There's that too.
Yeah.
I was laughing the other day because I posted the video of the one like what is in front of Sasha doesn't matter because of who's behind her, and I show Noah. I probably watched the video myself like 100 times. So I was laughing with my husband. I was like, I think all these views are mine because I just liked it so much.
You're like, pat myself on the back.
Yeah, I liked my own video. I mean, I didn't like it like, hit like. I was proud of what I did. So.
Heck yeah. Okay, so I have a few rapid fire questions if you can stay on with me a little longer.
Sure.
All right. You ready? They're high pressure.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Okay. Do you like a paperback or e-reader? Which do you prefer?
Because of carpal tunnel, e-reader.
I didn't know you had that too. Do you dictate your books? Girl, you gotta get those thumbs a break.
No. I do not. I wish I did though.
It's easy. I think Google Docs has a dictation function now. Microsoft does.
Oh, I didn't know. Honestly, I wish this is the only time I would want to have like a jack into my brain, like just download it.
Yes.
Like, that would be
People talk
wonderful.
About AI. I'm like, where's the one that can just like download my thoughts?
Yeah. So. That's the only time I ever want to have like something in my body is for this to just download the books, please. But no, I don't dictate. I usually, if I'm writing a news story, it's on my phone. If I'm editing, it's on the PC. So. Okay.
Yeah, you could edit into you could write it into your phone, just like voice notes it or voice to text.
Not with my kid and husband, like it would just be so all over the place. I think it would just stress me out.
Well, it does add to your editing because I don't technically enunciate as well as I should when I dictate. And so when I go back to edit, I'm like, what was I trying to say? Because it like has something else. Like I was trying to say like copious amounts, and it had like cornucopia and ants, and I'm like, what was I meaning to say? Cornucopia and ants.
Yeah. I couldn't. I think I'd be even more frustrated.
Yeah, the editing is a nightmare when you dictate and you don't enunciate. Okay.
I bet.
Are you a plotter or a pantser?
Pantser.
All the way. First person or third person? Which do you write in?
Third.
Is that third person present or past tense?
Past.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay, plot driven or character driven?
Character.
Do you write alone, write with a partner, or write in sprints?
I've done it all, actually. So sprints with you.
Okay.
On Saturdays, I'm barely awake.
Question.
Yeah. But yeah, I do it all. So whichever.
Are you an outline writer or are you a discovery writer?
Discovery. I can't. I've tried outlining.
It's so hard.
And it just, my brain just won't do it.
Girl, same. I'm just like, huh. You know, like when I'm writing it and you're in it, it just flows right out. But when I sit in front of an outline, I'm like, huh, what should I do next? What?
What works better for me is actually outlining after I've written and then filling in the plot holes. So if I have the outline first, I can't follow it. But if I write it, then outline it, and then fill in the plot holes, it goes so much smoother.
Okay, so are you saying then you outline, is it like a couple sentence summary per what chapter, and then you can see your plot holes?
Pretty much. Like I write it. You know that big binder I have?
Oh, yeah, it's daunting.
With the copies and with the edits in it. So I do my edits by hand. And when I do that is when I make the outline of, okay, this is what's happening in the story, but this is what I have to fix. And so I write the fixes into that outline. And then as I'm doing the paper edits and I type the additional things that I need in another document, and then I just kind of slide them in as I need to.
Oh, that makes sense.
I outline as I edit.
Yeah, because I was thinking about like your logistically, how does she get this done? But that makes sense. Because when you're doing your read through, that's when you're like, oh, I missed that. Yeah.
Yeah. But on paper, though, I can't, it's difficult like on the computer. I need a pen and paper and highlighter and like the sticky things. Like I need it all.
But I feel like we can see our mistakes easier on paper. I feel like your eyes just gloss over it when you're in a reader, you know, electronically.
It's true.
Yeah. Write in silence or write with music?
Oh, definitely music. Yeah, I need my headphones.
And you were saying you have a playlist for each.
Yes, every book has its own playlist.
I love
that I've listened to.
Writing with a deadline or at your own pace?
At my own pace, obviously.
Obviously. Yeah. Series or standalone?
Both.
Yeah. Okay, historical setting, present day, or future setting?
Typically present day.
But if you do sci-fi, is that going to be future?
The sci-fi was also present day, but just alternate universe, kind of like alternate Earth, I guess. But it was present day. It was just AI and other things that we don't typically see.
Yeah.
And by AI, I mean like bodies, not just the computer AI that we use for images, but I mean like real people AI.
Like
running around.
Robot.
Yeah. Yeah, iRobot. Yep. So, but I don't think that story will ever see the light of day. But yeah, I think it's mostly contemporary because honestly, I don't like history. I always fall asleep. My husband, when I can't fall asleep, he'll just tell me something about World War II. And after like the third or fourth date, I just kind of conk out. I'm not really, I'm more like either present day or future.
Okay, I had to say, your hubby sounds so sweet with you.
He is. He's adorable.
Oh, and I know that your daughter writes when you're when we're doing writing sprint. She's like right beside you, which is so sweet.
Playing her games, yeah.
Such a family affair. That's so cute, though. You guys are so close knit.
Yeah, we play a lot of games together.
It's nice because they're not going to be living with you forever. You know, those daughters, they grow up. I know.
Don't say that. Shh. I'm not ready yet. She's only 9. Be quiet.
I know. Don't ruin it. Well, yeah. That is all I have. It has been well over an hour and a half almost. And so, but me and you, I feel like we could just talk forever.
We could. We definitely could. But thank you. so
I
much
know. I'm
for
so
having
glad
me.
we had this. And so I want to do, when I know Revelation comes out in November, I'll obviously share all your posts.
Thank
And
you.
then we'll have to do this in 2024 because then you'll have Retribution
Oh
coming
my
up.
gosh. Yep.
We'll have
Oh
all
my gosh.
sorts of new stuff to talk about.
Yeah, we will. We definitely will.
But
So thank you.
otherwise, join me and Evie this Saturday for writing sprints.
Yes, I might be awake. No, I'll be awake, but it's usually like, I'm in bed, I'm getting coffee. But I'm here.
You're like, I'm here in the DM, in the comments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, every Saturday writing sprints. And thank you everyone who showed up and hung out with us for a little bit. I appreciate you.
Thank you guys. All right, I will catch you in the
Okay,
DMs.
bye. Take care,
Bye.
Gigi.